gentlemen, welcome to Glendale Housing Authority meeting of March 10, 2009. Maybe have a roll call for the authority members, please. What happens when you try to talk too fast? Your tongue just doesn't turn.
Authority members Draymond.
Here.
Mincy.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Parazian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Chairman Yusefian.
Here, maybe have your report, please.
The agenda for the March 10th, 2009 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, March 5th, 2009 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Do we have a motion for the minutes?
So moved.
Second. Okay, the minutes will stay approved as submitted. What's next, please?
Item 5 are oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through the Executive Director for investigation and report.
Mr. Herbert Milano. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Yusefian, members of the Housing Authority, and city staff. My name is Herbert Milano. I want to start first by thanking you, Mr. Yusefian, for the manner in which you held these meetings since during this stint as Housing Authority Chair. And I want to thank you and the other members with regard to the initiative you took in promoting the Quality of Life Indicators Project. I think it is my hope that that whoever takes over as chair will continue to move towards having a yearly quality of life indicators for the rest of the residents to at least get a sense of where we stand. I want to basically just convey to you the amount of clarity that I have gathered by coming to these meetings this past few years. I've seen the city in good times, in very good times, as it was back in 2005, 2006, during our bubble years. Now I've seen it, during this incredible downturn. And the clarity that I received is knowing who really holds sway when it comes to the city's funds. And it's an incredible shame that I now begin to realize that many of the problems that have been with us for decades, problems about youth, families at risk, homelessness, and so forth, are all within the scope of our being able to resolve. If there is a willingness and if there is no commitment to the type of funds and the type of demands that the city unions place upon you and upon the city. During the housing bubble, we increased our revenue significantly just from property tax. But we didn't really get to see that money. We didn't get to allocate those funds to those particular social endeavors which would have helped significantly many young people, in their families, as we try to promote some type of a resolution to individuals who eventually, if we don't correct it, may wind up, in front of the police or the courts. I think that we have had an opportunity to truly provide some type of funds to help those programs and those nonprofits that are the best individuals and groups able to help out. I know that other cities do provide it from the general fund, and the fact that we don't is a significant concern to me. As I was thinking about making this presentation to you, I was remembering a movie called Viva Zapata. Mr. Draymond, you probably remember. And in this movie, Zapata goes before a council or a governing board, hand in hand, very apologetic and demure. And eventually he takes over and is able to at least overthrow the powers that be, winds up behind the dais, and another gentleman comes before him, supplicant as well, and then receives a fairly negative approach back from Zapata himself. When he recognizes that, he decides that in disgust, he quits. Of course, that's only in the movies, but the point of someone coming before you like I'm here doing now as supplicant, as some of you have been in the past, and they winding up behind the dais, making the rules and making the policies, and oftentimes it's the transition sometimes between being supplicant and turning into somewhat of an oppressor afterwards. So I'm also reminded of a couple of things on Shakespeare that I'd like to share with you. because I don't intend to come here for the remainder of the month. This is from Hamlet's soliloquy, and it says, "For who would bear the whips and scorns of time? The oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy pays." You know, it's timeless. You know, the type of governing that we want, and the type of government that we get, so often there's such a schism. And I understand now, you know, the powers that be is about oftentimes greed. You know, and at the end of the day, for most cases where we find this inequity, it's about greed. We have had the opportunity of resolving many social issues, but unfortunately, greed gets in the way. And I think it's my assessment of what has transpired in the city. Those individuals who tell us that they have the public's best interest at heart, somehow when you get behind the dais, things change. So I'm still hoping for the day when we get 3 people behind the dais who will think of the public first. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oral communications closed. What's next, please?
At item 6A, Director of Community Development and Housing regarding Hamilton Court Transitional Housing Program. At 6A1 is a resolution authorizing issuance of a request for proposals for the Transitional Housing Program. At 6A2 is a resolution appropriating $7,200 to provide additional funding for the Hamilton Court Transitional Housing Project from renter income/cash match revenue collected. And at 6A3 is a motion approving a multifamily rehabilitation loan in the amount of $100,000 to Verdugo Housing Corporation for the rehabilitation of Hamilton Court.
Okay, and with that, I'll go to Madeline.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Housing Authority. The 3 items before you today relate to the Hamilton Court Transitional Housing Program. These requests, to some degree, reflect some of the challenges that the nonprofits are having in the community. This particular program is funded with HUD supportive housing funds, which require a match and are quite honestly challenging to administer. This project is actually owned by Verdugo Housing Corporation. Bill Boyd is here today. He's the president of the board of that nonprofit. And for many years, Verdugo Housing contracted with the YWCA to operate this program. Last year, the YWCA, experiencing challenges that many nonprofits are, indicated that they no longer could operate the program. And so at this time, the city, in submitting the application to HUD, actually took on the sponsorship and responsibility for operating it. So one of the items here is to authorize our department to issue a request for proposal to nonprofits to operate. We currently have 7 families that are housed there now. The other item is, because the project has been in existence since 1996, it is there's a need for considerable rehab of the units, and so we're requesting to authorize a rehabilitation loan of $100,000 to Verdugo Housing Corporation to make the needed repairs. And the 7 families would be moved from those units, and while the work is being done. So those are the 3 items, and Jester can give a more detailed report if you'd like one.
So all the work will be done simultaneously on all
Yes.
7 units?
Well, it'll be done in phases so that we don't disrupt people who are living there. So they'll move to another unit, and then that unit will be done.
Oh, I see. So you're doing it unit by unit?
Yes, that's
And
correct.
just move people around to do that. Okay, is there any questions? Okay, I have one card. Herbert Milano.
Chairman Yosefian, members of the Housing Authority, my name is Herbert Milano. I've read over the details of the document that is before you concerning the city's loan for this particular project. And I have a question. The question is, would this not have been an appropriate time to have inquired concerning the issue of this type of homelessness, the type of domestic abuse that lead to the need for this type of housing. If you had available in front of you the trends with regard to domestic violence, the type of homelessness caused by domestic violence, I think you would have had a better perspective of the need that the city would have to, or would be in a position to assist. And without having that information before you, you're only able to take a look only at this program and only at this particular request and nothing else. But I think that there's perhaps a bigger question that we should know, that we should have an answer to with regard to what is the unmet need? How many families are there that may be in need of this particular type of housing? And is the situation getting worse? My inclination is that it is. I've already had at least one tenant who husband and wife split because of the economic circumstances. And I would imagine that domestic violence tends to increase during hardship, economic hardship. And it would be, so I have a question, if perhaps the chair can ask the Housing Authority, what are the current conditions that we have with regard to this type of need for housing? What is the level of domestic violence? Is it increasing? And what is the potential need for the following year? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duran, do you want to tackle those questions? Is domestic violence increasing in the city?
Chairman Youssef and members of the Housing Authority of the City of Glendale. As you know, we do an annual point-in-time count, and one of the subpopulations that we collect data from and analyze is a number of persons experiencing domestic violence. And the trend, at least in the last 3 years, is that domestic violence per se seems to be decreasing. However, at the same time, the number of families that are homeless is increasing. So this transitional housing facility, it actually perfectly matches the current trend that we're seeing within the homeless subpopulations. And with regard to the funding, as you also probably know, when we submit our supportive housing program application to HUD, we have to specify the specific projects. And so once HUD approves our funding application, the funding must go to that type of project. So the funding involved in this program has to be used for a family transitional housing project.
And later on, if Mr. Milano has other questions from you, please make yourself available, just in case you didn't get the questions answered. Mr. Najarian, you had a question.
Thank you, Madeline or Jess. I have a question on the rehabilitation loan. It's about $75,000 with contingencies. You're up to $100,000. From what revenue will this loan be repaid, and is that realistic to expect repayment on that loan?
No, it's not realistic to expect repayment given the operations of the facility. What will be done is the rehab loan will be incorporated and rolled into the existing loan that the Housing Authority provided back when Hamilton Court first purchased the building, did some rehabilitation, and then first started the operations of that. That's a 30-year loan.
So, we'll be holding a note.
Correct. Currently, the Housing Authority currently holds a first trustee note, the only note on the property, when it assisted the project some 10 years ago. And this additional loan will be amended into that first trustee.
So at the time, if ever, of being sold or
the affordability
transferred.
Covenants continue with the property, and the developer must, or the Hamilton Court must retain the property and operate it in an affordable manner for 30 years.
Okay. And at the end of 30 years,
The loan is forgiven.
the loan is forgiven. Okay.
That's how it was originally
So,
structured.
so in reality, this is a grant. I mean, in all.
It is a grant to continue the 30-year affordability, yes.
Okay. So, I like the sound of a grant better than making a loan to a shelter for domestic violence and
Right.
homeless, and the big bad cities, got the mortgage in front of them and all that. So, just so people know that, and many times people say, well, the city should do this and the city should do that towards helping out. This is clearly one of those indications that sometimes goes unnoticed due to the language used in the report, and accurately reflecting the technical and legal situation, but in all practicality, basically a grant to the facility.
It's a performance loan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero.
Yeah. I remember working with Mary Hamilton and others when this was first put together, so it's been quite a while. I think, I'm sure that the structure is in need of repair, so I'm glad we're going to do it. Jess, I have a question. Are you, in terms of a new service provider, are you optimistic that we're going to be able to get someone in there, or what's your feeling?
As Authority Member Quintero, that's a very good question. We are very hopeful that we will actually get responses to our RFP. As Madeline alluded to earlier, the nonprofits are having as difficult a time during these economic times as everyone else. But we're going to do our best to do a countywide solicitation. We want to present the project as attractive and viable as possible, and that's the reason for the rehab loan, so that they can look at it and know that they can come in and not have to worry about any repairs or rehab work for a number of years. But there is that $30,000 match, which will be a challenge. We've had a couple of organizations contact us to indicate that they are interested if and when we issue the RFP to make sure that they are notified. So we're very hopeful, but we wouldn't be surprised if it turned into a challenge to find somebody.
Throughout the years, we always had a lot of referrals, and it would work both ways to my office. That's still the case, right? They're still working with Verdugo Workforce and so forth?
Yes, we are dependent on those referrals.
Have we tried to work with Path Achieve, or would they be the one of them that will be submitting?
Yes, yeah, Chairman Yosefian, you actually approved transferring the project to Path back in May of 08, I believe. Yeah, and so Path was ready to take over the program, and then they considered it more carefully and determined that at that time they were not in a position to assume the sponsorship of the program, so they backed out. And that was right around the time that we needed to submit our funding application to HUD, so we inserted the city as a project sponsor in order not to lose the funding and risk HUD recapturing the funds. So in November, we took over sponsorship, and Yvette, our homeless coordinator, has worked very closely with our cadre of nonprofits, including PATH and Salvation Army and Catholic Charities, and the YWCA, which has continued to be in there with us in order to interview, screen, place, and case manage the 7 families that we do have in there.
Because Pat has, I think the last time I was there, they have been able to get some private funding. So I thought that $30,000 would easily be met by them.
Yes, and they may very well be one that do submit a proposal.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion for 6A.
I have a question.
Beg pardon?
Yes.
I have a question.
Well, let's get a motion. 1, 2, 3.
Yes, 1, 2, and 3.
Second. There's a second question.
Okay. On the inventory list, bottom says that all furnishings and equipment donated by the community must stay with the program. So I didn't know that community are donating the equipment and furnishings. Is there any way that there will be mailed to at least the managers saying just do not put out the good furnishings? When I'm passing by, there are very good stuff out, and by the time they are getting deteriorated and just, it just waste of some good stuff. Can they donate to the project?
Mr. Chair, members of the Housing Authority, that's an excellent suggestion to get the word out that we are eager and would very much like to have donations of furniture. Thank you.
Because there are some movers that they just put out their stuff and moving good stuff, We can have those for those people.
It's an excellent idea. Thank you.
So there's a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Authority members Draymond.
Yes.
Mency.
Yes.
Najarian.
Yes.
Parazian.
Yes.
Quintero. Weaver. Chairman Yusefian.
Is there any staff comments? Mr. Vince has a comment.
Yes, this is, March is Housing Month. And I just want to, since this is the Housing Authority, I also wanted to let the public know that in the lobby of City Hall, we have a very nice display of a lot of the housing personnel and other things on what you can do, for instance, senior housing, how you can improve your, say, a bathtub so that you can get in it as an elderly person and so forth. There's a lot of information there, and I recommend that you drop by City Hall right in the lobby, and you'll find it very interesting.
Thank you. I received a letter last week from our good friends at ADI regarding the solar energy tax credit decision that we made. And they raised an issue that pertained to the earlier building that's currently under construction, the Metro City or Glendale City Lights building. Essentially, their point was, hey, we put in the solar power on Glendale City Lights. We didn't ask for anything. We didn't get any credits. We put it in on Vassar. There are credits that are going to be issued, and the city took half of that. So I'm wondering if the city read that and if we could get a report on that.
I have already asked that item to be put on the closed session. Will be on the closed session.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Never.
There was a question was brought up about the cerebral palsy building. It's been a while. I mean, I've been waiting for that building to get started, so I want to
underway.
know what's happening.
It's in construction, being framed right now.
Correct. It's the slab for the building has been poured. The framing for the construction, the first floor and second floor, has started. They actually should be on the second floor by now.
And when do you anticipate completion?
Probably within the next. It'll take at least another 9 months to be able to complete.
And if people who have that type of ailments would like to apply for those units, who do they go through? Do they come to us? Do they go to cerebral palsy?
At a certain point during the construction process, once we're probably past 50% in terms of completion, we plan on coming back to the authority to let the authority and the public know of how they can start the referral process for those that would be interested in the units.
So it will be announced from the housing authorities.
Yes. We'll actually agendize a report.
So you're anticipating that to be within the next 6 months?
Yes, correct.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Terry.
In terms of who's going to do the selection, I assumed it would be the organization that's contracted, or is it going to be the housing?
No, it wouldn't be the housing authority,
Yeah,
and we will be working with UCP to identify the correct agency. And typically, for developmentally disabled projects, it is the Lanterman Center that will be screening applicants and determining whether or not a particular individual is able to live independently in a project such as this. So we want to be able to present to the authority information on how people could access the Lanterman Center, apply, let them know that they're interested, and start going through a screening process.
Because I have been asked that question several times, so I just didn't know. That's why I asked. Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the Glendale Redevelopment Agency meeting of March 10th, 2009. May we have the roll call, please?